Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got Shannon on. We've just done a little YouTube video about how to find and train a setter. And I wanted to title this podcast differently, but she won't let me. So I'm going to tell you the title that I want it to be is Why VA Agencies Are Shit and Why I Close Mine Down. Are we allowed to go with that?
Yeah, that's okay.
Simon, does that work?
Yeah, no, it's even better, mate.
Oh, brilliant. Are we allowed to say shit?
Yeah.
I mean on the podcast, but like in the title.
No, we're just...
You have to
go
put a little star in it, don't you?
Shit. I don't know why that even counts. Like nobody knows what that is. Even the star looks like the dot on the eye.
Yeah.
You're a line away. You're a line away. Anyway, what happened? That's a very broad question, isn't it?
That is
tell
right,
us
right.
what this Tell us what the service was at first. Like how did Social Shannon work?
So at the beginning, it was more of like a VA service. We were offering like a half an hour a day of my time to like go in and start conversations and like basically package it up. We were running at a very low package. Like that's why I think we were doing so well at the start, because I was like charging 280 quid a month to like do a half an hour a day on someone's account.
Was that the most profitable the business was?
Probably, because I was only just me. So at the time, like I was probably like pocketing like £1,500 a month on top of like the wage I was already getting of my full-time job.
Yeah.
So I was still working my full-time job and doing this as well. And I was doing like 14 people's accounts at one point.
Mad.
By myself on top of everything else. I don't think I actually did my full-time job for a while.
So that's like, so you were doing, well, if I round it up and do a bit of mental maths, we're doing like $4,000
Probably.
on top of having another job.
No, so like, I think, yeah, more or less.
Yeah, if you're doing half an hour and you were doing like, I've done it on like, 15 clients.
Yeah, 14 clients, yeah.
Well, let's say 15 and round it up to 300 quid instead of 280 so I can do the
Yeah,
maths
that was
in my
probably the
head.
most profit it was. And that was like, whenever I was like, oh yeah, I could just like do this and go on holidays and whatever stuff. Do not think about it whenever you start like hiring staff and everything else. And then it just goes kind of tits up from there.
Okay, so how did the service then grow? So you were doing it yourself. You were doing half an hour of just like doing shit for clients.
Yeah,
like
so I was doing
everything.
like messaging for like,
Some people you were making content for though as well,
so
right?
I was doing like, I was helping them like post content, or I was giving them like content. At one point I was giving people content ideas as well on top of like messaging. So I honestly don't know how I'd done all of that and done a full-time job, but I was doing that for like 6 months. And I was actually still doing coaching as well, because I still had like 4 clients that were like wouldn't leave. So it was just like, I honestly don't know. And I love when people moan to me and they're like, I just don't have any time. I'm like, mate, I done like 3 jobs for like 6 months. I didn't take a day off for God knows how long. I work 7 days a week.
Yeah,
Don't cry to me, because like you get 2 days a week off. Like it's ridiculous.
So then where did it go from there? What was the next step?
So from there I ended up hiring my first employee, because I needed to obviously kind of start pushing people over there. I was getting too many inquiries at one point. So that was my first hire. I think it was Alex. And she worked right up with me.
Right,
for like
do you think you got inquiries because like it was an amazing package? Because I don't think half an hour is fucking useful at all, to be honest. What do you think? Why do you think you got so many inquiries? I
think because I was the cheapest one at the time.
Do you know why I think it is? Because coaches really fucking hate lead gen and they'll spend any amount of money to not have to do it.
That, but I also think as well, like, I think because a lot of people were coming to like getting word of mouth of like, say like Art has and stuff as well. I was working with him and Julie and that as well. As soon as they started talking to people, like it just kind of snowballed from there and just kept going. Obviously hiring like other staff members as well. Like at that, I only had a team of 3 until like December last year. And like we all had like a decent amount of clients. And that's kind of when I made the jump, like, right, I need to now go fully into this. So I ended up quitting my other job and fully going into self-employed. And I was still working for you as well. I was doing like the lead gen for you for the mentorship. So I was still more or less doing 2 jobs, but I was able to manage it a lot better. So I was like, I'm still doing my own accounts. Still, obviously, Alex and Clodagh, they were my staff members at the time. They're kind of involved now as well. And then it came, obviously, January, I needed more staff. So I ended up hiring another 2 or 3 girls. And then I had to think about, right, I need to up my prices, because it's getting to the point where I've got staff in. The March didn't add up. I was paying the staff like X amount of money at that $350 that we'd only increase our prices to. And then obviously the rest in the business. And then again, just kept snowballing. Like it was just getting more and more busier. I think the biggest month we ever had at that, like I say biggest month, like during that time, it was like maybe February, March. I must have had like 20 people sign up that month.
Yeah.
And it just kind of kept going. I was like, I started panicking. I was like, shit.
How many clients did you have for the packages? Like, what's the most amount of clients that you had on the
I
books?
think we had 70 at one point. Like,
really?
Yeah. So we had like.
And how many staff members was it?
Like 14. I know. That was only like before. I was like September.
That's a bigger team than we've got.
That was like in August, September.
That's
and then
disgusting.
whenever we made that transition to do only collective coaching, that obviously started to dwindle down a lot because we did have lots of people like dropping off and stuff, and like that was fine.
I feel like I've just slowly shut your business down, like in the background, like without you really knowing it. I'm like, right, stop doing that and do this. Okay, now just stop doing that entirely.
But like, it happened in a good way, if it makes sense. Like, I feel like it was always going to happen. I knew myself like it was always going to happen. I just knew I couldn't keep going the way we were going.
Okay, that's interesting. So talk about the reasons why you knew you couldn't keep going the way you were going.
So I think people don't realize this when you run a business and you've got a big a team. You have to think about the management side of it. I can't manage 70 clients and do 14 members of staff, so I had to bring a manager in to help me out. Obviously, that comes with its own issues as well, like, you know, making sure that the manager like knows exactly what they're doing. And then even when it was obviously a manager, I was still having to deal with client issues and stuff like that because it wasn't like they were taking over the full team. So you still have to think about that. As I was doing other stuff as well with collective coaching, it just became a bit much. And then people are still coming in with inquiries. So it's kind of like you've got that fulfillment issue where you're still getting clients coming in, but you don't have enough like people leaving. Like my retention was quite good. I've had clients that were with us for like a year, 2 years, like a year and a half, whatever. But then you're like, well, I have to hire more staff. So you want to hire more staff quickly. And then I hadn't had the resources in place to, like, I had to train them myself instead of having like a portal, which I tell my clients to do in place. And I was like, that's where I kind of think we went wrong, was we didn't have that in place.
Still an issue with the portal though, that there's a lead time, right? So
yeah,
if it takes 6 weeks to get someone from hired to trained,
yeah,
there was loads of times where like you didn't have 6 weeks, like not even fucking close.
like 2 days.
So you were hiring people and then 2 days later you were having to set them in businesses.
Like we were trying to hire people and then give them like a week. So myself and my manager would split the time between us in terms of training. Like I'd be like, right, you do this training with them and I'll do this training with them, and kind of split it up. Because like obviously I was like, that's the kind of basic stuff. I want to get them to do this type of stuff with them. So that was obviously fine. We had some people come in and they absolutely fucking smashed it, took it all on board, really took away, and I was like, didn't have to worry about them. But then we had people who were absolutely fucking idiots and like couldn't even comprehend like simple things like how to open a message. And like I was like, how have you run your own Instagram? Like they were like, oh, I've run my own business and like that. I'm like, okay. And then giving them the clients is a massive thing. It's the trust, isn't it? Whereas like people are trusting me to place like a good VA, and I've had to sack someone after 2 days because I was like, you have blatantly not took anything in that we've said. You're asking that many questions. I've already answered this like 3 or 4 times. You've just not soaked anything up that we've taught you. And I was like, not only are you ruining my reputation, I was like, but you're ruining the client's reputation with me and like that relationship because you're that shit and you're not actually listening to what they're saying. So there's always going to be issues like that. Like it's the fulfillment, isn't it?
You think that's because
people think it's like an easy job to do.
I think maybe it's the offer that set that up for that kind of failure though, because I think, and again, like it's not just you, I think it's the way the market portrays it. Like you can just pay your money and then the next day there'll be somebody plugged in your business ready to go.
Yeah.
And like in practice, 70% of the time that doesn't work.
No.
And all you ever hear about is like
my
people
VA
marketing.
shit, yeah.
Yeah, but like on the front end of the VA agencies that we see, all we hear is, yeah, our clients are knocking down this many calls, we're booking this, look at the feedback we got, it's amazing. But what we realized is like, that's a very small percentage of their kind of their target audience.
Yeah, and like their day to day as well. Like people never talk about their failures, obviously. They don't, like, do you know what I mean? Like we've done really well. And do you know what? I'll pride myself on this. And it's because I know so much about lead generation and I know how to work, is like why I was so hard and have been hard on my team, is that when I teach you to do something, like this is like kind of, I'm telling you to do it this way because it's the best way. But I think as well, there's other agencies out there that don't fully comprehend what it takes to be good at lead generation. And they just think that like, and I've seen it before, like they'll repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And
well, we've had some come through that have been absolute garbage. So like we've had clients sign up oh, I'm already working with the VA agency. It was like, all right, sound. You are aware that, you know, if you had your own VA already, we would help you train your VA
to be better
and make them better. Because you're working with an agency, like we can't train an agency to be better at their job. Like,
no,
that's a business to business. Like we would have to, if I was working with an agency on improving their services, I'd be charging them 24 grand minimum. Like, and that would be me on the light side, like trying to do them a favor. So like when you come in with an agency, it's like, no, we're not going to spend time improving someone's work so they can make, you know, £200,000-300,000 a year for the next 10 years off the back of the work we've done. Like I'm charging them 10%. So if they're going to make 200 or 300 grand, like I'm charging them 20 or 30 grand for that work. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, can you look at the numbers and let me know how they're going? And you're looking at it and it's like 800 messages sent out.
Yeah, I've
40 replies and you're like, oh my God, I was like, how many followers do you have?
And it's like 2 calls booked.
Yeah, and they're like 8,000. And I'm like, all right, so in 10 days, this person is going to have messaged everyone in your fucking account and you've got 4 replies out of 800. So you're going to get 40 replies, or like you've got 40 replies, so you're going to get 400 replies in total out of 8,000 people. Do you not think that that's a bit weird?
Yeah, like I don't think people like, that's the thing, isn't it? Like
well, they don't set KPIs, I find. I've
don't.
Never seen another VA agency go in and be like, this is the rate we're working towards. Whereas like, I've not had the best luck with ad agencies, to be fair, but like when you work with an ad agency, they go, this is where we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Okay. We're trying to get to 3x ROI. So you spend, your budget is 6 grand. Our ideal scenario is you make 18 grand back. And then we can look at scaling your ad spend once we've got that to work. VA agencies or like setter agencies don't do that.
I think it depends. Like VA agencies who offer like lead gen, like packages, they also offer other packages. So I've said this before, lead generation isn't their main like strong suit. Do you know what I mean? It's not their main thing. So therefore, they're not very fucking good at it. Do you know what I mean? So like if you can't be the jack of all trades, like you're gonna be the jack of all trades and masters of none.
Somebody's just walked in and I can't see who it is because I can only see the feet.
It's our Taza.
Oh, is it a Taza? It's like, do everyone ever used to watch the Bradshaws? I'm showing how old I am there. I mean, Simon, you remember the Bradshaws,
I'm the same
right?
age as you and I've never even heard of it.
There used to be a TV show called The Bradshaws where like you'd see the parents but you'd only see the feet.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Mum, can I have a budgie? That one.
Yeah, I think
it used to be on the radio as well. But yeah, you'd only ever see the feet. You'd never see what the parents actually look like. If anyone remembers the Bradshaws, leave us a comment so I don't feel like I'm an old cunt and nobody knows what I mean. I think it was a proper northern thing. Like the kid was man because he was like, "Mum, can I have a budgie?" Like it was proper like that. So maybe Reese has never seen it because also you're like 23, so yeah. Honestly, it'll be on there definitely. But yeah, I think the KPI is something that a lot of people, they just don't, well.
Because people don't track either. So
I don't think they know. That's the issue.
No,
right?
do you know what it is? It's like agencies who are the jack of all trades and then the master of fucking none of them. Because
I still think agencies that mostly talk about we give you lead generation, I still don't think that they actually know what good looks like.
Oh, they don't.
So they're working to a yardstick that they have no fucking clue where it is. It's just like, we'll book you some calls. And you're like, how many calls? And we're like, oh, we don't know.
But then they're like, oh, we can take over your whole account and do your lead generation in an hour day. And I'm like, fucking bullshit. Like,
good, I'll hire you for 14 hours a day if you can.
Take over my Instagram.
If you can do a full coach's lead generation in an hour, I will pay you 100 grand a year. Because clearly you're fucking the best lead generator I've ever seen.
But that's like the issue as well. Like you have like even people who've come to us and come to me and they just sit back and do fuck all and they're like, I'm like, you're literally paying for an hour. Like you need to do other stuff. Yeah, but like, why can't you just take over? And I'm like, because there's still like 23 hours in the rest of the day. You're going to leave someone for 24 hours without a fucking reply. And I've seen it all the time. This is one of the issues why I don't want to do, why we asked this agent to like do away with like the 1 to 2 hour packages and completely demise the business, because it's just that model, right? It works for some people, but you're going to have people who come in and abuse our service. And I've had it before and we've had it still. Do you know what I mean? We've had people come into mentorship and they do exactly the same thing. Okay,
so what do you think the major downfalls of like using a VA, and you were one of them, right?
Yeah.
Or we or you or whatever you want to call it. I'll take some responsibility for it. Not all of it, but I'll take some.
You push me into it.
I didn't push you into nothing. You've never done one thing in the world that you don't want to do.
That's probably true. He's not wrong.
Right. So, what are the major pitfalls that you find in VA agencies, including your own? So you're not like taking shots saying like this is as a whole.
I think staff is the biggest one. I like actually having the infrastructure for staff and knowing like, see the hiring part of it I've got better at, definitely, and it's a massive skill I think I've learned, but I think like not understanding how to actually manage staff and their expectations and dealing with all the issues that comes on with it and the training and stuff. If you don't have anything like that in place, I think that's like a big downfall.
I'll add to that I don't think it's quite as easy as just hiring someone, like being like, okay, we've got Coach X, we need a setter, let's go get one, let's plug him in.
Yeah.
I don't think it particularly works that way because I think there's also got to be a personality match between the setter and the coach.
Yeah, and that's,
the setter's got to be really fucking good to where they're a bit of a chameleon and they can kind of bend their own personality.
Yeah, well, like with VAs and stuff, because obviously you're like, my girls can work on 6 different accounts in a day, right? So they have to be very good at changing the personality that they have and acting as the coach. And that's training that I do with them. Now, it's not everybody. Like the girls that I have now and the team I have now, they've been with me for a long time and they're very good at what they do and they're very good at chopping and changes, which is why I am pushing them into full-time roles to other coaches. And I have coaches come to me being like, I want her, I want this person, this person. Yeah. So I'm like amazing that the team have done this well, that people want them. But that doesn't mean that people in the past that haven't been like, just like haven't been great. Do you know what I mean? There's a reason why they're not with us anymore. But they can't adapt to like a person. They can't take feedback. They can't change their mindset. They just go in and bang out a load of messages and think that's a job done. It's just like, it doesn't work like that. I think people don't take into consideration as well, like when you start scaling past a certain income, the VAT and like you were saying before, and the tax is astronomical. Like I never increased my prices to more than £550 a month because I knew if I did, I'd outservice myself in the industry. Because no coach is going to come to you and pay $650 for an hour a day. It's just not. And you can't even justify the price because you'll be like, oh, well, you know what? I have to pay the staff this much. The business has to make this much. The tax is this much.
The only way around that would be to only work with coaches that are past the VAT barrier.
Yeah.
And then obviously it would the VAT would cycle itself.
But that's just like...
It's removing your pool, really. Especially in the UK. It's
you don't have many doing that. So
not consistently.
No.
A lot of them like say that they do X amount a month, but they've done it like once.
Yeah. And then I think as well, like people, it's more the stress of like the business. I can deal with stress sometimes, have a meltdown now and again, like, but I think people don't realise like when you're growing a business, the amount of issues that just come along with it. Like I
think the staff load from me watching it like was quite heavy.
The staff's like you're working with
hiring and managing 15 people, but also like in a short amount of time.
Yeah, the different personalities as well. It's mental.
You know, some of them being part-time and some of them being full-time as well. Like it's a difficult process. And especially like when we've built our team, we've done it like in stages. Mm-hmm. And also I've already kind of known everyone that we've hired.
We had this.
You've had to go out and get fucking strangers.
We had to go out and scale like fast because we were growing that fast and it was starting to scare me hard, like fast. Like see before we had that conversation in September, I had ads and everything running. I had people booking like calls left, right in Chelsea and I was like, how the fuck am I going to fulfill all these like leads? So it was almost kind of like a bit of like less pressure to come on to me whenever we started doing just exclusively working with collective coaching. But then I still had an issue because then it was like, we had like 12 or 15 people sign up in the space of like a short period. I was like, where the fuck am I going to pull all these people? Yeah,
so we had a period where like we tacked on like getting a VA into the offer. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, because coaches hate lead generation so fucking much, that was just like, I'll pay you whatever you want. Like we put the price up at one point to I think 12 grand for a 4-month package, which I think is the most expensive
included in the UK. Obviously the VA and stuff. And people were like, that's the thing,
but people were like biting our hands off at 12 grand. And like, I was sitting down thinking we should push this to 15 because there's too many people signing up.
But not even that. It was like, that's what I was saying to you before. People thinking that, oh yeah, like I'm getting a VA from like collective coaching. They're going to do all my stuff and I'm just going to have
Well, that
nothing.
was one of the issues that we ran into where like...
But even though I kept saying to him, like in the call, you still need to do your own lead generation. You are not going to get 5 calls booked a week off 5 hours.
Bearing in
Why
mind,
not? And I'm like, are you fucking taking the piss?
Well, I naively thought that because we were only offering it to CEO clients, we were only going to be offering it to people that were doing, kind of 5 or 6 grand plus recurring a month. And I thought, therefore, they'd understand the process a little bit more than they did.
No.
And like any time I had faith in humanity, I was wrong. And that was one of the pitfalls we run into, is because we said we're going to give you a VA that we've already trained up.
Yeah.
It was an hour a day because that's all we could work into the margins. And that was one of the issues that we found, is people were like
taking the piss.
It wasn't even that, I think for me, it almost removed the focus off them onto us as such.
Yeah, because then
so
there was
they do 2 hours of lead gen a day, or say they do 2 hours of lead gen a day, and the coach should do an hour, like the VA do an hour of lead generation a day, and they'd be like, oh, there's no calls getting booked. And you'd be
and they're like, oh yeah, my VA hasn't booked any calls. I'm like, it's not their responsibility to book you calls.
I just think it was a mismatch of expectations.
Yeah,
to be honest
and I
with you.
had coaches as well being like, can you do this today? Can you go and reply to my DMs? And I'm like, I'm not being funny, but we agreed that they're only going to do the starting conversations for you, so it takes a little bit of pressure off. The VA should have literally just went into the business, took the pressure off of halving the amount of conversations that they had to start, and they should have been responsible. But I think
it was supposed to be there as a time saver.
Yeah, and people
I think
just
the
abused
idea got across that it was going to be somebody that would sit there and book calls for you, which for an hour a day is just
it's
just
unheard
impossible.
of.
On the other side of it, I also think that there's an issue with it because that person is not that coach's member of staff.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we've obviously come into the setter and stuff.
Because that I thought was like the relationship that the VA had with the coach, the ones that had good relationships with the coach that genuinely liked them and wanted them to succeed, they worked really hard for. And those coaches were coming back like, we're booking this amount of calls, business is growing this fast, the VA's fucking incredible, it's taking the pressure off so much, it's doubled my call booking process. And I'm like, cool. Some didn't get on. There was a mismatch of personalities. There was
not even the mismatch of personalities. I think as well,
or a mismatch of expectations.
Expectations, and also people's fucking attitudes as well. It's at the end of the day, they're there to do a job, and to help you out and whatever. But how you speak to people, will ultimately affect how they perform. I've had some of the VAs come to me crying their eyes out, getting really upset how they've been spoken to or what's happened and stuff like that. And it's that's stuff I have to deal with as well. And I'm like, it's one of them things as well. It's kind of separate your emotional and your logical brain. But people don't realize that when they say things to someone, they can take it really to heart, and ultimately they blame themselves for other things going on. And then I have to then deal with that as well. But it's, like you were saying, it's still managing expectations, but it's how you speak to people. I think that I can be quite blunt. I know that. But I think as well, how people treat VAs.
I feel like that was our fault though.
But I think how people treat VAs sometimes is fucking wrong.
I feel like that. I feel like that was our fault purposely, because I don't think we did any training with people on how to be a manager, a good manager, a good
leader,
boss, and a good leader.
Yeah,
I think that and there probably still is a hole in our program with that.
I think that's probably one of the things we probably need to do more of, is teaching people how to become a good manager of a business and how to treat staff.
And to be fair, a lot of the coaches that we get on, I've never managed anyone before. They've never been in a managerial position. They've never been a leader of anything. They've never been in a position of power. And if you don't know how to effectively motivate and treat people and get the best out of people, we've all had managers, right?
Yeah,
we've all had managers that we really like, and whether it's sport, whether it's work. Reese is shaking his head. I bet you're a nightmare.
He's like, no.
We've all had managers that we've either have inspired us and we've worked really hard for. Depends what job you're in. I was pretty hard to motivate when I was working in a leisure centre as a lifeguard.
I honestly can say from this year, I've learned a lot about actually managing people. I know from it, I haven't always been the best of people managing them, and I know I can come across blunt and stuff, but it's more I'm a very reactive person. If something goes wrong, I'm right, well, let's fix it, let's get it done. Do you know that way? Sometimes I can come across quite blunt, which is just the way I am.
Cold is a word I've heard used
cold
to describe it.
Someone told me I was dead inside before, which is like a little bit harsh, but you know, whatever. Get the best out of people.
That.
It's not. I get the best out of people, and that's what happens. But I think that's one biggest thing I've learned this year is like, now that I'm like kind of taking a step back, I've noticed things more, and I'm like, I try and kind of like come with it a bit differently.
Yeah.
So it's don't know, it's easier now, I think.
And then finally, I think obviously the one where it struggles as well is the scaling process of it. Like the ones that do well, the ones that book loads of calls, which was actually, you know, when we say about it, the vast majority of them, like they got on really well, like they worked really well. Like you said, how many of them are we going to set in businesses now that we've made this shift?
More or less all of them. So like, I think
90%.
Yeah, 90% of the girls will be going into full-time roles come January.
With the coaches that they were working with previously.
Yeah, most of the coaches.
When you hear us talk about the things that went wrong, we're talking about a minor percentage.
Yeah.
But as fucking humans always do, you tend to put a lot of energy into the things that don't work instead of the things that are. Now what we're moving to, I personally think is a much better scenario because I think we can fill some of the holes like we've said.
Yeah.
So like...
But it gives us the time as well.
Yeah,
like I feel like if you've got that period where we're going to obviously find, hire and train people to do that job, we have that time to like figure out if that person's the right fit. We know that we need at least 3 people for one coach in case something else happens to the next person. Like say that setter doesn't get along with that person, or like that setter's just not a good fit.
Or they just fucking quit.
Yeah, or they quit and leave, that's fine. But then you also have the other side of it where we're developing a fucking course that's going to be like literally from start to finish, lead generation expertise. Like you aren't going to be able to leave that course until you actually become out like a fucking absolute killer. Like we know that it works because it's all my stuff and all of your stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? We know it works and works before, we've done it before. So it's kind of like if we put them through that training process and like, you know, they do like if they do well, we know it works. I mean, well, not really say that way. Like if I put people through that training process and like if it doesn't work, then that's on me. But I still have the time to kind of like shadow them, like make sure, give them that support.
Well, I don't think they're going to get into the business at this point if they're not good.
Yeah.
I think because we've got more time and we've got more of an in-depth training process and there's not as much pressure because it's not like your VA will be ready tomorrow when you sign up. It will be you sign up and then we've got 6 weeks to identify someone, get them through the course, make sure they're good enough. And then if not, we'll pause everything and we'll just say, listen, we're going to need them for 6 weeks because that person,
Yeah, but
and also we've got a pool of candidates that are going through the course now.
Yeah.
So like it will be a lot easier. But I think that in itself, I think we'll get less people that are, getting put into businesses without us going, they're really fucking good at this. Like,
yeah. Because they won't be able to get through the course anyway or get past
not
anything.
Not when I've wrote the quizzes, they're not going to know.
Well, exactly. So we know that like, if they do the course and they do well and they pass all the quizzes, we know they're actually going to be good at it. But does like the support we give afterwards, like I'll obviously do still like maybe like live shadowing with them and just make sure they're actually doing a good job if we place them with a coach that has paid for that service. Okay,
so for the setter then, what does the process look like now?
So if someone's coming in through the course, the course is going to be at least, there's like 7 or 8 modules in the course itself. They'll go through, if they actually want to become self-employed, their own boss, want to do it themselves, they have the option to go through those videos. So there'll be like a whole section on that. They go through like actually how to qualify people. So there's going to be more videos on like where to find prospects, like how to identify people on social media, finding people on Facebook, etc. Then you have a whole in and out messaging like thing that'll go literally through 2 different scripts, follow-ups, objection handling, like how to actually use Instagram, like things like that. Go through like actual live training as well. So doing some of those videos. And then you've got how to actually do paid ad stuff as well. Will be good.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we got? We've got tracking, like how to communicate with your clients. Then we're going to do a whole kind of social media part of it. And like if they want to use, say, their own social media to build their own business, we'll show them how to do that as well.
Okay, so that's the training process that the setter goes through.
Yeah.
So they go through
the course, yeah.
How long is it? 6 weeks?
Well, you can probably get it done in like a month if they wanted to, but like it depends how much time they have. Like,
but realistically, if they're doing something else to move over, it's
it'll
probably
be like
take them
6 to 8 weeks.
And then at the end of every section, there's going to be a quiz that they have to pass.
Yeah, so it's basically like an exam that they have. Like if we
to move on to the next module.
Yeah, like we want to make sure people actually take in the information. If they're not learning it, then something is going wrong there. They're obviously not paying attention.
And then final practical exam at the end.
Yeah, so final exam, obviously make sure like they know exactly what they're doing and they've actually taking everything in.
Yeah, is that going to be a live account?
I don't know. Haven't thought about that one. Yeah,
I reckon we should make it a live account.
Like a live account, like actually get them on to do that.
Yeah.
Could
and
do.
we shadow them through it, and they've got to go through it as if they were working a new account.
Yeah, but if we get an influx of people, that means like 30 people in 1 week doing that. So it would have to be.
I think it's necessary to see them under pressure.
Yeah. And see if they can actually handle it mindset wise.
So like that's the training process. What the setter goes through. Somebody comes and says, right, I want that setter. Yeah. I like I've seen the training that they've done. I'm a fan. Like, I like the personality. I've looked at the CV. I've looked at the report that you've made on them about what the skill sets are and, where they match up. What's then going to be the process to actually set them in the business?
So first of all, we need to do interviews with both of them. So I need to make sure that the coach and them get along, they're happy enough with everything that goes through. We go through again, a couple of different questions that the setter and both the client needs to answer. Then after that, if the coach is happy, that's fine. We'll get the contracts and stuff in place, make sure the fees, commissions and everything else all ironed out before that, get that all signed off. And then the first kind of process is that we get them on a call with the coach, run through the company, their target audience, all that stuff. Then I let the setter go into their account and start reviewing just some of the messages, like reviewing how they speak, look at all their videos, gather all the information that they need. And then I do the live session with them. So I'll do maybe 2 live trainings with them every week. And then I'll maybe shadow them as well. Mm-hmm. So that might take us say 2 weeks if that was someone coming, an already experienced setter coming from the course. But if it was someone I had to go out and find, that's going to take 4 to 6 weeks, because if we have to go out and hire someone separately, there's obviously the hiring process, getting the job ad out as well. It takes a little bit longer. But if we already have we've got obviously a pool of people going to be sitting there waiting, ready to go, then it's going to be a little bit easier.
So you think it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks to get them trained up, and then it's going to be a 2 to 3 week process to get them actually working, and then what's the ongoing quality assurance?
Yes, we do ongoing support. So the setter can be inside our Facebook group where I'll do 2 live calls a week. So one of the calls is going to be a support call. So it's answer any questions and stuff that they're struggling with at this moment in time with their clients' accounts. The second one is going to be where I cherry pick someone to then go through their messaging on their clients' accounts. So I will audit what they've been doing and where they're going wrong and how they can fix it. So that'll be 2 support sessions a week for any of the setters in the Facebook group. And then they'll also have the option to do a monthly call with myself.
And then my job in that is to make sure that the business owner has everything they need to be able to actually manage that setter effectively.
Yeah, so basically how they're going to do all of that and the infrastructure and the revenue and all that stuff.
Making sure the pricing's right, making sure that they're able to tack the commission on as part of the package, making sure that they've got the right marketing strategies to actually generate the leads from them, and also they know how to manage them on a weekly basis.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can find all out anyway when we do have the calls and stuff with them.
Yeah.
Again, we have it's the same for the mentorship. There's going to be a process. This is not going to be for everybody. We are not just going to hand it a setter to just fucking every Tom, Dick and Harry. It's just not going to happen. At the end of the day, that person needs to be able to actually do their job. I don't want staff members.
So that's the thing I think we made a mistake with, that maybe we can say, oh, well, the coach doesn't, the coach expected too much, blah, blah, blah. But I think we sometimes gave them this member of staff when the systems weren't really in place. The coach needed more time to learn how to do things for themselves. They didn't really have a nurture pipeline in place, so the leads were really scatty in the first place. They didn't really have an audience large enough, and the ticket price was pretty shit to where, the VA was really unmotivated to book everything, because they were I think for sales-based staff, commission-based roles are always the best way forward. Give them a base to keep them
well, you have to in the UK anyway. You
don't have to.
I was told you have to. You have to pay them a certain minimum. If they don't make it.
So if you have commission-only based roles, if they don't make the commission above minimum wage, you have to top the wage up. But if that happens to me more than once, that person's getting sacked. So it's not something that's an ongoing problem. If you've got people who are commission based and they're not making enough commission to meet minimum wage, they're not doing a very good job, and they're probably not going to make the end of the probation anyway.
Yeah. I mean, our setters, like, we're putting it in the course that they probably could make $3,000 a month if they're good at what they do. Probably more than that.
Mine make more than that.
Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously your VAs are making more than that. And that's because of your ticket price and stuff as well. Like, any coaches I've been having conversations with, I'm like, you need to pay a flat rate, like pay per hour fee. But I was like, you need to pay them at least 2% of the sale they make.
I think more than that, you know.
No, and I think more than that when to pay up front. So say if you have someone who, like, basically their program's £1,800 for 6 months, pay up front, they need to get a chunk of that commission, that, like, at least 5% of that. Because, like, you would have got that sale about them.
Right, if you're paying your VA less than 25 quid per close, per call you book that closes, I think you're going to end up with a very unmotivated
Yeah,
VA.
because it's like, it's 15 quid and you're charging...
Well, let's say you're paying them 25, right? And they book 20 calls that close. So if they book 20 calls that close, realistically, they've booked somewhere in the region of 30 to 40 calls for that month. All right? They're only getting 500 quid.
That's ridiculous.
Whereas if your package is even £1,000, for example, you know, you're making 20 grand off that and they're getting £500.
Yeah. Even if you're paying your VA, like, say, £12 an hour, right? And that's £12 4 hours a day, and you're paying 5% commission. That's a fucking good job that coming in. Like, who else can say they're getting that much money? Like, if you're in a salary job, say your like pays what, £2,200, you're only seeing like £1,700 of that. Then you obviously, if your bills are like over £1,000, you're still not seeing a lot of money. So you've got like more to play with when you're doing the setting role.
Yeah,
that's why obviously we're doing what we're doing now to encourage people to become setters. We know it's a more lucrative business.
Yeah, but I don't think working as a setter in an agency is actually a very good job either.
No, because you're going to get paid for the hours that you're doing. And then what happens then if you're like, what happens if like the clients start drying up? We had that conversation before. Remember that girl who was emailing and saying that she only had like maybe 3 clients toward the end. She couldn't afford to work because what you're working for, 3 hours a day and getting like £16 an hour. Do you know what I mean? That's nothing if that's not going to cover your bills.
Yeah. So that's a big shit. How do you feel about it personally?
Personally, like, I'm nervous, but I'm excited. Like, I'm excited that it's like what we're doing, because I know that I'm like more, I don't know, because I've had so much work in the last couple of days as well. Like, I'm very passionate about it. It's good that like I can actually get all my knowledge and put it into a course. That it's exciting. But it's also sad that like I'm giving up like Social Shannon a little bit. It's like a bittersweet thing.
It's been very like this, hasn't it? Like, you literally started it, got up to like, what was the peak month? Like 30 grand?
Yeah.
So you built a business from like 0 to 30k a month. And then I was going to say you've destroyed it, but I've slowly pulled it apart like over the past few months.
Yeah. I think though as well, like I always knew in the back of my mind, I couldn't do it forever, because I knew.
If I didn't force you to stop it, do you reckon you'd have just carried on and like...
I think we would have carried on, but I think
if I didn't put it on you and be like, listen, you're not fucking doing this anymore.
I think I literally would have just been like, at one point, I physically can't do this anymore, because I know myself, there was just so many holes. I would have just had to like pull the plug and then restart. That's probably what I would have done. Been like, nah, fuck this.
So you would have more done an implosion at the top rather than like a gradual descent of...
Yeah, because that's my personality though. Like, I am one of the people, I'm like, if something's wrong, I'm like, nah, fuck this, I'm done. Let me just start over. I like rub it out and start over again. And that's just my personality though. That's how I am.
Was it frustrating seeing that amount of money, like revenue wise, when your margins weren't...
Oh my God, yeah.
Like your margins aren't coaching margins. It's not like coaching margin, for example. You make 30 grand a month. You're probably like 18, 19, 20 profit, depending on like whereabouts you are. It
physically makes me sick thinking about the tax bill I'm going to have in January. And I know that like I have not seen a lot of that money. Like, you can buy a nice car and stuff, but it doesn't make up for like the amount of money you pay in VAT.
You bought a couple of handbags and a fucking F-Type this year, so you've not...
To be fair, I actually haven't bought that many handbags. It's been like 2 handbags.
You bought 2 handbags?
That's it, yeah.
Where were the handbags from?
Louis Vuitton.
Louis what?
Yeah, but they're not that expensive.
Louis through?
They're not that expensive. They're not that expensive. They're not that expensive.
They're not that expensive.
No.
I know.
Can't you fit your handbag in the car anyway?
Yeah.
You have to put it in the seat, because
she also bought a sports car that she can't fit her handbags in.
Yeah. Honest to God, like the car, like trying to get in and out of the car is an absolute like nightmare and the best.
Trying to get another car?
No, trying to get in and out of the car.
Oh.
It's because it's so low and the doors are so wide. It's like...
It's too sporty. It's too sporty. My old knees can't get in.
No, like Don't get me wrong, like I've absolutely loved it. I've loved doing the job.
I'm going to say you're proud of yourself because
yeah,
it's a pretty like phoenix from the ashes kind of. I don't know. I think I've never seen a business go from like 0 to that and then pretty much back to 0 again in that space of time.
I think it's been like 250, then 300 in the space of the time that we've actually been running. Like from when I first started doing it with myself until now. And it's been good. But
what did you do in the first full 12 months?
From like January to this, probably like this year, it'll be like over 200, I think.
That's mad that for 1 year.
But we done like zero. We done like what? From like January to June, we done 100k, I think it was. That was quite good. But like I said, it doesn't come with it. Money's not everything. It comes with
no,
its
for
faults.
sure. But like what that shows you is like, if you solve a problem that people really fucking want solving and really don't want to solve themselves, the amount of money people will throw at a problem to fix it is disgusting.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, I've seen your client list. I've seen coaches on your client list that have absolutely no business paying 500 quid a month for a VA. Like no business at all. You're like, your revenue is nowhere near you having 500 quid's worth of outgoings for an hour of work a day, but they'll pay it and they'll give up, you know, their own profit in the business and their own take home pay because they fucking hate it that much that they'll just throw money for the problem to go away.
Don't get me wrong, like lead generation's hard.
No, listen, I'm not saying it's like an easy job. What I'm saying is if you build a business that solves a major problem for people, like I know full well, every time we put out anything about generating leads, we can put out whatever you want. And this is like, the rest of the industry get funny about it. They're like, why don't you focus on being a good coach? It's like, because every time I focus on being a good coach, no one fucking downloads anything. No one messages us. No one you know, everyone should be a good coach. Like, it's nice for you to bang that drum, but like from my experience and our research, nobody gives a fuck. Like,
people care what you can do for them though.
There's a million courses on how to be a better coach. Guess how many of them make 8 figures?
Yeah.
None.
It's fucking...
Zero.
It makes me like...
None of them. Guess how many business courses, lead generation courses make 8 figures? Fucking loads. And it's not that anyone's more important than the other. It's because, funny enough, coaches actually quite like coaching and they'll just do that research on their own and they'll do it quite happily and Google's pretty fucking good. And they'll buy books, which are much, much cheaper than doing courses, and they'll learn. Whereas like lead generation is just like...
It's a skill.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to learn how to do it. I don't want to put the hours into doing it because I don't fucking like it.
It's a skill though as well.
Like, but it's like your 10,000 hours, but a lot of them have already done 10,000 hours of gym floor coaching.
Like, Bradshaws will tell you exactly the same. He was one of my first clients I ever had. And like, he'll tell you how like different my lead generation skills have changed since I first started with him. Like, and he still comes to me and asks me for advice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's because you're doing it on you. And I said this to when we had Lacey on the other week. I was like, her business has grown so fast because instead of doing 1 or 2 hours a day, she was doing 4 hours a day.
For me,
for
though.
For other coaches, that's what I mean. But she got that much better at it that quickly because you've seen the Kobe Bryant thing.
Yeah.
Where he's like, you get up in the morning, you work out, you go home, sleep. I get up 4 hours early and because of that, I've got, 4 hours more practice every single day. In a month, I've done a year's worth more practice than you. In a year, you'll never touch me.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of process.
But I said this to one of my clients the other day. I was like, even though it's like I've never like been as passionate and learned like as much as I have about something. Like I've done marketing my like more or less my whole adult life. Like I've done it in uni, did a business masters, like done all diplomas, like worked in marketing jobs, working like so many agencies, done every fucking Google course, Facebook ads course you can think of. There was never nothing I've taken on so much in my life that I feel like I am like I know so much about it. And I feel like I'm gonna say I'm an expert, but I feel like I am.
I feel like you're a lead generation Yoda now.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a guru. Like I feel like
you feel like you're a guru.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a poisonous word in the fitness industry.
Is it?
You know,
Is
you're not
it?
allowed
Why?
to say guru.
Why?
Because everyone spells it with 2 O's and they think you're a wanker.
Who spells with 2
Guru.
O's? Who spells? Not like, but I just feel like I'm very good at what I know. Like I'm very good at what I do now because I've sat for the last year and a half and done it more every single day.
Say it with your chest. I'm here for it.
I'm good for it. I'm good at it. I feel confident enough that I can do it.
Awesome. So we've run a pilot with some of our clients already. How has that gone? How have you found it?
It's gone good. So we've obviously like found and hired and like and trained people into other people's businesses. So like Quinn's obviously got one now. She's doing 4 hours a day and is doing quite well.
Ben's has smacked it, hasn't he?
So actually Ben's VA and Barry's VA were people I actually hired to be in my business, and I trained them up. And do you know what? Like,
but that's when we were a bit slower and we had a bit more time to do it.
Yeah.
And obviously Ben's and Paddy's accounts were that large that we knew.
Not Paddy, Barry.
Barry, sorry, but same thing. Barry's account's pretty big as well. Paddy, Barry,
Same thing,
Paddy,
Barry.
whatever. I'm joking. They're two very different people.
I mean, Barry. So
but like the accounts were growing at a similar rate, and obviously Ben's account is quite large as well. So like we knew we had to get someone in that like could do the hours, like could do the whole role, like not somebody that could potter in and do an hour a day. Like you hired on the fact that this person is going to need to do like 4 hours a day.
Yeah. I think like Jake's doing maybe like 4 or 6 hours a day, and like I spoke to him like
Jake's booking over KPI. He's booked over KPI every single week.
He's doing really, really well. And do you know what? The one thing that I really loved about Jake when I first interviewed him was his attitude. He's only 18. He was so like driven, motivated. And I was like, this guy's really impressing me. Like he's only a kid. And he was like, can I tell you why I want to work with you? And I was like, fucking go ahead.
Yes, you can, lad.
Yes, you can. And like that was like, that's the things I look for in people. Same with Josh. Like Josh is absolutely fucking smashed it with Barry, but like 9 calls in a day the other week. Because like literally when we done the training with them, we took everything on board and they just went and learned it. They asked questions when they needed to, and then they just got on with what they needed to do. There was nothing that's like faffing about. Like, they just put everything into practice and they done it.
I think there's a couple of things that have gone into like the success of this new way of doing it happening though. First of all, Ben and Barry are very thoughtful business owners.
Yeah.
Like they care about the staff a lot. They want them to succeed, and they want their own businesses to succeed as well. But because we offered it to them as a member of staff, they've taken them on as a member of staff and they've treated them like part of their team.
Yeah.
Which I think is massive for the setter to feel like they're a part of the team. I think the second thing is obviously we've only had to. I know like you did a bit of training with. I keep meaning to call him Alex, and it's Jake. I call him Alex all the time.
All the time. It's so weird.
When you brought on Jake, like. We've done intense training with Jake on Ben's business. We've done intense training with Josh on Barry's business. So they've not had to be like, oh, I'll do a bit here and a bit there and a bit on this business and a bit on this holistic thing. Like they've been able to live and breathe that business and that niche and that clientele, which I think has worked out really well.
Yeah, I think when we first started with Jake, he was only doing 1 hour a day on Ben's account, and then we increased to 3. And once that kind of transition happened, like I kind of started to see that he idolizes Ben as well.
Oh, he loves it. So like, he loves it.
That was like saying before.
But
that
Ben's a good leader.
Yeah,
Ben's
but that
a really good leader. All of Ben's staff look up to Ben like that.
Yeah, but then it's like, that's the thing, isn't it? Like the personality of someone else, like you don't want them to clash, but like the culture that fits for them. Same with Josh, he's a grafter, Barry's a grafter, it's a fit. And it's like, that's what I look for. Like that's what I tried to do in
and
my
that's
business.
why doing it slower now, I think, and making it not like, right, cool, we'll just...
Yeah, so like Lauren is going to be going with Tom and Emily. She's already worked with them before in the last 7 months. It's a culturally fit. They both all get along. She'll go and work for them too.
Yeah.
Then obviously I've got other girls in mind where I want them to work with certain coaches because I'm like, I know that's going to fit for them.
Yeah.
And it's same with like Craig. I only helped him hire someone the other week, and he was like, it's absolutely perfect. Doesn't really need that much training because the guy's already had training before.
Yeah, but I think just having that time to be able to like cherry pick the right person and then be like, right, this is the business, this is what we're going to be doing, this is the kind of clients that you're going to be working with, I think is a much better process and be like, here's your VA.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. How can people get in touch to find out about us?
So
if you've made it through that, by the way, like fair play to you, because that was heavy.
Yeah.
That was heavy lead generation talk.
Yeah. I mean, so for the B2B offer, so if you're obviously looking to find, hire and want us to train someone for you, you can obviously contact us on Collective Closers Instagram. And then if you want interested in actually doing the lead generation course, now I'm opening this up to anybody. So if anyone who maybe wants to learn more about lead generation for their own business, maybe they want someone like their partner to come on board and do it for themselves. Like I have people who actually want their partner to go in and do work for them. You can join the course.
If you've got someone, that'd be a fucking great idea.
Yeah, like get them on the course. Like, even if we obviously have different options for like the payments and stuff. So the course will be ready to go in January, and that's when it's going to be launching.
Oh, good. What we'll do, this is going up on YouTube, innit?
Idea.
Yeah, it will be. So we'll put the links in the description for both the Instagrams and the application form in case you just want to get started. And hopefully, what? Oh, sorry. I thought Simon was saying. I fucked it up again. This is the second one in a row that I've screwed up. Sorry, Shannon. I feel like I've just gone to pot on all the ones that you're on. What we will do is we'll try and keep this updated as this offer keeps running, because it's already growing quite quickly with the amount of interest that we've had in it. So I think it would be cool to kind of have a check-in like maybe every 6 weeks and how things are going and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. If you want to keep up to date with that, let us know. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification. This is also going out on a podcast. So whatever you're listening on, subscribe to that as well. Thank you very much.